I love the performances. Maria Cotillard's parts, speaking in Polish including. I just wanted to ask you to know about, a little bit more about the process of casting her, and whether you considered maybe casting some Polish actors to the main role. Thank you.
Well, the other actors, I mean, the woman who plays her aunt is, I'll try and answer it this way. I have 3 young children, and I kind of stopped going to the movies in about 2006. I mean, I see them at the end of the year, some, but I'm a little bit out of touch with movies right now, and I didn't know who Marion Cotillard was. And I had become friendly with her boyfriend, and we went out to dinner in Paris, and I met her, and she and I started arguing about an actor whom she loved and I thought was overrated, and she threw a piece of bread at my head. And I immediately, of course, when she mentioned that she thought I was a jerk, I of course immediately liked her as a result. And I thought she had a great face, not just physically beautiful, which she is, but a haunted quality, almost like a silent film actress. I mean, I've talked about this, but she reminded me of Falconetti from the Dreyer film. Very able to convey depth of emotion without dialogue specifically. So I wrote the movie for her and for Joaquin. And if they hadn't wanted to do the movie, I mean this, I'm not sure I would have made it. Whether she was Polish or French didn't really affect the decision at all, although she wound up cursing me because she would be on the set, as you can remember, she'd have her little book of Polish like this. She was really stressing about getting it right. But I didn't think about that at all. I just wanted to, it's like I say, that try and reaching back in a way to move forward, to try and reference, in a sense, the silent film, the depth of those beautiful silent films where the actor either didn't have to say anything, or what I think is a beautiful quality in movies where an actress says, or one person says to the other, I like your shoes, but really it means I love you, you know what I mean? Or I want to kill you. In other words, the subtext is everything. So I felt that her face was able to do that, was able to convey great meaning and emotional depth. She's very intelligent, and she's very, intuitive that way, and I loved working with her. She's one of my favorite people to work with. And with Joaquin, I just, I'd worked with him before, and I think he's, closure here is fantastic, so. All right, I'll stop. I actually do like your shoes. They're kind of, you get away with it. If I wore them, I'd look like, a member of the Hasids or something.
Actually, then, can I just ask a quick follow-up to that question? Your background is, your grandparents emigrated from Russia or the Ukraine?
On one side, from a town called Ostrov, I think it is, pronounced. It's gone now. It was mostly destroyed by the Tsars and then totally leveled by the Nazis. That's apparently about 25 miles outside of Kiev. That's on my father's side. On my mother's side, they're Polish.
Right, okay. So, but Russian Jewish background, sort of your family?
Yes.
Can you talk about the significance of making this character Polish and Catholic?
It started because, in the pure historical sense, the Polish immigrants at the time were Catholic, and I started to see that, and some people might regard it as a mistake, I don't know. I find that I made her Catholic because of the theme of the film, or one of the themes of the film that I wanted to explore, which is this idea of redemption and forgiveness, which is almost institutionalized in a way in the Catholic Church. And the idea of, of course, Madonna, all of this stuff was connected to the Catholic tradition. The Jewish tradition is a little bit different. So really it comes from what I wanted the film to be about. I wanted her almost to kind of baptize him at the end, I wanted the film to be really kind of about this idea of no one is beneath us. Nothing, everything is of value, which is a very, I say, Franciscan idea, So all of this seemed consistent with making her Catholic. And I also, last but certainly not least, it would make her even an outsider in the Lower East Side. So it would put her totally in that position.
Yeah. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Use the microphone.
I was wondering if, in writing the script, if you thought about dramatizing their crossing and also having more scenes between Marion Cotillard and her sister earlier on, before they arrive at Ellis Island, at the script stage.
Yeah, I mean, very early on, maybe, but at a certain point, you have to make key decisions unless the film is going to be 3 hours or something. I came at it because there are very few films, believe it or not, which, well, so I couldn't actually think of any films shot at the actual Ellis Island for what it was. There are a couple like America, and The Godfather Part 2, which have Ellis Island in them, which of course they weren't shot at Ellis Island. But I never thought the actual drama of the crossing, which is depicted in America, the Kazan film from 1960, I don't know if you're familiar with that movie. It's sort of done perfectly in that movie. And I just felt that the story wasn't about their relationship, that a sister's relationship is already kind of built-in love, and I wanted to explore something else, which was about this kind of, you know, the idea of a codependent relationship, which is a very post-war kind of concept from Alcoholics Anonymous. But I wanted to apply it to a period setting, codependent relationship between a man and a woman. So I didn't really think about the sister's story so much. To me, that was only the cause of her dilemma, not really something to explore. I hope that answers your question.
Yes?
Well, do I have to stand or can I sit? Yes. Your film has that kind of warm feeling, like a new Hollywood film or like a 70s film. Like, was it shot on 35mm? And do you have really strong feelings on shooting on film versus shooting digitally?
The decision about digital or film is going to be made for us, you know? I think the answer is film is going to be gone. Although I think it'll make a comeback. It'll be like vinyl records or something. But the movie was shot on 35mm film. What we did do was, Darius Kanji and I, the cinematographer and I, we did tests on Alexa, Red, Kodak, and Fuji. Fuji doesn't make film anymore, by the way. And I filmed them out and I did them blind. You know, we just screened them and said, well, which one is the best? And to my mind, screening them blind, it wasn't close, but the Kodak looked incredible. But I think it's the power of what is new that is really very, in some ways, damaging. Because if you say, okay, let's say everybody shot in digital. The whole world were digital. There weren't Steven Spielberg, Chris Nolan, all those guys, they were all shooting digital. And all of a sudden I came out with a new product and I said, well, there's this thing, it doesn't see in pixels, it sees in grain, which is more like your eye sees, and has better contrast ratio than digital, and it has better representation of color than digital, and the blacks are better. You know, everyone would be like, this new thing, film, I gotta change to film. Because I can't understand why everyone wants to migrate to a medium that is, in my mind, objectively worse. It's not even cheaper, really, digital. Now, there are some advantages. I think it comes from cinematographers being fearful. Because what happens is that on digital, you see exactly what you're getting from the monitor. And so there's no evening of terror. I remember Darius's reaction when we did all this stuff in the sewer system where Joaquin and Marion are being chased by the police. That night, Darius was like, I don't know, I did all that and I don't know what you're going to see, and it's really, I don't know. And you could tell he had a sleepless night worrying about the layup and all that. And that's gone with digital. But the audience doesn't care about that. The audience sees the movie. They don't care about the sleepless night that you had not worrying about whether the thing would be developed or whether there would be an image. So and you mentioned the new Hollywood thing. Well, to me, that was a wonderful period in American cinema where there was a kind of honesty and a directness to the emotional life of these characters. You know, and I think that there are many filmmakers today who work in a very admirable way. But if you look at the studio system, it certainly represented a kind of a peak. I mean, it's not just me that's saying this. I mean, there's 1939, 1941, and then there's 1967 to about 1974, 75. So those are the periods that have inspired me, but I'm not alone. I mean, every filmmaker I know, I'm friends with, the contemporary ones, are obsessed over those movies.
Hey, the Jeremy Renner's character, Orlando/Emil, he's the one character in the movie who really explicitly mentions the American dream and sort of promises escape. And he's a professional illusionist, and I was wondering if you could talk about the significance of that.
You just made it so obvious. The character came from when I had read about the show on Ellis Island that Caruso sang, that he had acts opening for him, one of which was a magician. And his character is based on a real guy named Ted Anneman, for whom he is literally the spitting image. And I just found that, magic was very important in the early 20s. I mean, it was the age of Houdini, but even before Houdini, millions of a lot of magicians. It was magic and the occult, as a way of explaining the unexplainable. So that was part of the history of it, but then it did have, I thought, a thematic tie, and I can't answer that now. You basically said it. Yes.
No.
Mike's coming.
Here you go.
Bruno's business are the desperate. And at the beginning, there wasn't much of a soul that was visible. And then I felt the journey that we go through throughout the film with Ava is finding glimpses of the soul in Bruno and in others, in the business of the desperate. Is that something that you would say is what you were doing?
Well, I can say that we sort of engineered the movie a bit. I know that we talked about this. I certainly engineered the movie on a script level in reverse. My co-writer, a wonderful guy named Rick Manillo, who's now dead, unfortunately, tragically, he and I talked about the ending first and how that would inform everything. That ultimately it was more about the ending made the story in a way about him as much as it was, if not more, than about her, because he, in a way, is forced to confront his self-loathing and to come to grips with the fact that just to survive is its own form of heroism. And certainly it was back then. It is today, I think. I mean, life is very hard. People will say, "No, movie director, what's hard about your life?" It's like, everybody's life is hard. Everybody lives with great challenges. And my whole journey to attempt to express was that in order to survive, he had to do these things. And I didn't want to, as horrible as they are, I didn't want to judge him for it. And that in the end, that we saw through this self-hatred some kind of deliverance. I know this is not making any sense. The way that you try to write these things is to come from a very emotional place. It's not a verbal or intellectual one. So you try to think thematically as much as you can, but in the end it's trying to communicate almost the unfathomable, almost the kind of non-verbal mysterious. And with that character, I felt a close kinship. Obviously a pimp in the Lower East Side, but and thank God my wife has not yet arrived in New York. But what I can say is that I did empathize with his self-loathing and his struggle to survive, his struggle to battle, in my case, depression, but certainly his struggle to battle the difficulties of living. I don't know, can you
That sounds good. Sounds really good.
Because I thought it was gibberish. I mean, I meant it, but it was gibberish. That's the sad part.
We have time for one last question.
So sitting in the front row, they're still their pastor, huh? No, you have the seats. You miss me, man, right here.
Not you, but I'm gonna go to the front row. Okay. So there's two hands in the front row. Here.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Joaquin. This is a question for you, actually. We've seen you do a number of impersonations here, of character studies, if you will. So with that, I ask you basically three questions. First of all, when you write, do you hear your characters speaking to you in your head? Secondly, do you ever intend to act yourself? And thirdly, when you're explaining what you want to actors, do you ever act for them?
I can answer those.
Go ahead.
You do see the character with that. You do start talking about it. We're trying.
No, that's true, but I will answer the. First of all, I'm the worst actor ever. I had two chances to act in my life. First was Wes Anderson wanted me to be in The Life Aquatic, and he said, "No, it's really fun. You come, it'll be in Rome. It'll be amazing." So I said, "What do you mean, Wes?" I said, "How long?" He said, "Well, 2 or 3 weeks." And I'm thinking, no way, right? No way, 2 or 3 weeks. And I didn't understand why he wanted to cast me, but I don't know. He's a friend, and as a consequence, probably wanted some form of revenge. And so I said, okay. And then we were going to go, and then all of a sudden I got the schedule, and it was 5 months at Cinecittà, and I could just see mental illness creeping in. And, so I said no, and he said, "Wait time to Rome. You got to come to me, Rome." I said, "Yeah, but 5 months in Rome." And all of a sudden I felt like Rupert Pupkin, 6 weeks, I can't keep it to 6 weeks. I'm glad some jokes are just for me. So that was the one chance. Then the second chance I had was I acted in a friend of mine's movie called Love Jones. And I had a scene with Lorenz Tate. And if you see Love Jones, I'm not in the movie. So that's to tell you how good I was. It's called Cutting Room Floor. But I do love actors, and as a consequence of my ineptitude, I realize how difficult that it is. And I get angry at friends of mine when they say, so-and-so was just playing himself. I really love James Caan's performance in The Godfather as Sonny Corleone, and I've heard people say, "Oh, he's just playing himself," which A, is not true. I know Jimmy Caan very well, and B, even if that were the case, that would be the best thing you could possibly do. Like removing the wall between actor and character, removing the wall between character and story, character and spectator. That is a great thing, and I do not have that talent at all. So, of course, I'm probably, as all directors are, a frustrated actor, and I like to act like I'm better than they are, and of course I'm significantly less skilled. So how do I work with the actors? I don't know, that's a question you would answer, I don't know. Or actually, obviously, not answer. All right, so.
He's actually a good mind, a little bit.
Mike.
And he will, after a couple weeks, he will start doing lines, so try and say it like your character. That's really funny, that's really good.
That's terrible. I give you line readings?
No, but you'll just start talking about things. You won't start about a scene, and you'll start trying to compliment the character and explaining the scene. It's really funny.
That's not conscious. I mean, here's the thing. In a way, all writing is almost a kind of form of method, because you have to live the person that you're writing. And what you find is that whenever I give the script to friends of mine who, for feedback before I shoot, tell me what you think, if I haven't done that sort of weird living it for that person, even if it's a smaller role, like inevitably a friend of mine will go, yeah, that character, that's not really, you really think about that character. You can never hide from that. So, yeah, I try to think it as much as possible and hope for the best.
That's all we have time for.